Right now, you're making a decision. You probably don't know that. You're just reading. But somewhere beneath the surface of your awareness, your brain is firing, filtering, choosing, without asking you once. That is the strange truth at the center of your entire life. You believe you are the author of your choices. You believe you pick what to eat, what to say, what to feel, and what to do. But research suggests that by the time you experience a decision as a decision, your brain has already made it. You're not the pilot. You're closer to the passenger, watching the cockpit through a small window, convinced you're the one flying. Here's the number that should stop you cold: 35,000. That is the estimated number of decisions a human brain processes in a single day. 35,000. Most researchers, including those at Cornell University who have studied decision-making behavior extensively, suggest the vast majority of those choices happen completely outside your conscious awareness. You don't feel them. You don't debate them. You don't remember them. They happen to you, not because of you. So where do they come from? To understand that, you have to go back. Not to last year, not to childhood. You have to go back roughly 2 million years to a version of yourself that lived in a world so dangerous and so unpredictable that stopping to think about every choice would have gotten you killed. Picture that version of you. No shelter, no stored food, no guarantee of tomorrow. In that world, your brain faced a fundamental engineering problem. There were too many decisions and not enough time. Should you move left or right? Is that shadow a predator or a branch? Is that berry safe or toxic? Is this stranger a threat? Every millisecond of hesitation had a cost. So your brain built a solution. It built a system that could make decisions faster than conscious thought. A biological autopilot. A network of learned patterns, emotional shortcuts, and inherited instincts so deeply wired into your neural architecture that they run continuously, invisibly, in the background of everything you do. Neuroscientists call this System 1 thinking, a term made famous by the psychologist Daniel Kahneman in his landmark work on human cognition. System 1 is fast, automatic, and effortless. It doesn't ask you. It just acts. And it is running your life far more than you think. Here is what that looks like in practice. You wake up and reach for your phone without deciding to. You pour coffee into the same mug. You take the same route to the kitchen, stand in the same spot, and scroll through the same apps in the same order. No deliberación. No internal debate. Just pattern execution. Thousands of tiny behaviors playing out like a script your brain wrote years ago and never stopped running. Researchers at Duke University, led by Wendy Wood, spent years studying this exact phenomenon. Their findings were startling. Roughly 43% of your daily behaviors, nearly half of everything you do on a regular day, are habits. Not choices. Habits. Automatic responses triggered by context, not intention. The context is the cue. Your kitchen triggers coffee. Your couch triggers the remote. Your commute triggers a podcast. You think you decided. You didn't. Your environment decided for you, using a script your past self wrote. But it goes even deeper than habits. Because it's not just behavior that runs on autopilot. It's judgment. It's preference. It's emotion. The brain is constantly running a prediction engine beneath your awareness, scanning the environment, pattern matching against everything you've ever experienced, and generating feelings that arrive in your conscious mind already fully formed, labeled as preferences, as instincts, as gut feelings. You experience them as your own thoughts, but they were assembled in the dark by a process you had no access to. The neuroscientist António Damásio spent decades studying patients with damage to the emotional centers of the brain. What he found upended everything we assumed about rational decision-making. These patients, when stripped of emotional signaling, couldn't make simple decisions. They could argue both sides of a choice infinitely, listing pros and cons, running the logic, and never arriving at a conclusion. Without the unconscious emotional signal, that quiet feeling that nudges you toward one option, the decision engine froze. What you call a rational choice is, in most cases, your brain finding a story to justify what it already felt. Read that again. You are not reasoning your way to a decision. You're telling a story about a decision your nervous system already made. Now pause for a moment, because this is where it gets personal. Think about a big decision in your recent life. A relationship, a job, a move, a purchase that felt significant. You probably remember thinking it through, weighing the options, being deliberate about it. But here's the question: how much of that thinking was actually calculation, and how much of it was your conscious mind constructing a narrative around a conclusion it had already reached? How much of "I decided" was actually "I explained"? This is not a comfortable question, because if your decisions are being shaped by invisible forces, by habit, by emotional priming, by environmental cues, by ancient threat detection systems that have no idea what a mortgage is, then what does that mean for your sense of self? What does it mean for your freedom? Here's the counterintuitive twist. Knowing this is not a reason for despair. It is the most practical piece of information you can have. Because the moment you understand that your environment is writing your choices, you realize you can edit the script. Not by willpower. Not by forcing yourself to think harder. Willpower is a terrible tool. It fatigues, it depletes, it fails reliably under stress. No. You change your choices by changing your context, by engineering the environment so that the automatic system, the one that runs you, runs in a direction you've chosen in advance. This is what Wendy Wood calls habit architecture. You don't overcome the autopilot. You reprogram it. You put the healthy food where the eye lands first. You leave the book on the pillow instead of the phone. You set up your gym clothes the night before, so the cue is already in place when the groggy, barely conscious version of you stumbles out of bed and reaches for whatever is closest. Ancient humans did a version of this without knowing it. They built camps near water, not because they consciously planned their hydration habits, but because the environment made the right choice the easy choice. Structure procédé d'intention. The geography of their lives made certain behaviors automatic. And your brain, the same brain they carried, still works exactly the same way. There's one more layer here worth sitting with, because not all of those 35,000 decisions are yours in another, deeper sense. Some of them were installed by other people. From the moment you were born, your brain was absorbing patterns from your parents, from your culture, from every repeated experience that left a groove in your neural wiring. The food you instinctively reach for when you're sad. The kind of person you feel immediately comfortable with or instantly wary of. The things that feel like success, like danger, like home. These weren't chosen. They were inherited, absorbed, written into you by a world that didn't ask your permission. Social psychologist John Bargh spent years studying what he called automaticity in social behavior. The idea that much of how we respond to other people is triggered unconsciously by cues so subtle we never consciously register them. A tone of voice, a facial expression held for a fraction of a second, the layout of a room. These micro inputs shape your behavior continuously without ever surfacing as a thought. You're being influenced constantly by a world your conscious mind barely notices. So what do you do with all of this? You start to pay attention at the level of design rather than the level of decision. Instead of asking, "What should I choose?" you ask, "What kind of environment makes the right choice automatic?" Instead of fighting your autopilot, you become its programmer. You stop trying to be more disciplined and start being more strategic about the triggers that run you. You also develop something rarer and harder than willpower: meta-awareness. The ability to occasionally step back, notice the script playing, and ask whether you actually wrote it or whether it was handed to you by habit, by culture, by someone else's design. You won't catch all 35,000. Nobody does. You were never meant to. That autopilot kept your ancestors alive in a world that would have killed a slow thinker in seconds. The speed was the point. The invisibility was the feature. But you live in a different world now. A world of mortgages and menus and social media feeds designed by engineers who understand your autopilot better than you do. A world where the ancient system is being exploited by forces that profit from your unawareness. The most powerful thing you can do is simply know it's there. Right now, you're making a decision. You probably still don't know exactly what it is. But somewhere beneath the surface of everything you call you, the decision has already been made. The only question left is whether you designed the conditions that made it, or whether someone else did.